Well, welcome everybody. I want to share a brief story about Salila because when I started to do these little videos I do from time to time with the introduction, the very first one that I ever did was with Salila. She invited me out to Krambanbuli, is that right? Her little puppet theater house out there. We had lunch and she just was so effusive in her joy of puppets and of meditation and the Adam community and everything else, that created a very powerful anchor for me that every time I see Salila, I'm like, oh, hi. It's just like this joy kinds of wells up, which I don't know how disarming that may be. Oh God, he's coming at me again, what is it? But there's just so much joy that flows through her, and a big part of that is what she's going to be sharing with us today, her love affair with India, her 45-year journey as a meditator, right, 1979-ish. I mean, that just a testimony to what living a mindful life can turn into. So please give Salila Kabitza.
Well, thank you for that introduction.
You deserve it.
And in a way that was the best introduction because with my 45 years of trying everything under the sun, it actually at some point came to a point that, you know, whatever you try from the outside, this maybe, you know, I started with this therapy. I did the most therapies of anyone that I know. Like, everything was available in India, and we tried it all out, and all of this, and it all has a part in my life, but then it all came back to the only thing that is left at some point. It's just all that is needed is a quiet mind, and everything else will fall into place. And sometimes I experience that in the form of there's days where I just feel kind of, I don't know, it's not like super miserable or something, but something. And then one day I noticed that there's days where the light switch is switched on, and there's days where the light switch is switched off. And at some point what is it? Did I do the right type of therapy, or did I do the right exercise, or what is it? But it wasn't anything of that. I felt like there's days, there's me plus God, the light switch is on. But me minus God, the light switch is off. And when I say God, I don't mean a big daddy in the sky. I mean something divine, or some kind of, how would one say that? Like I can always feel that space if I calm down enough. That kind of sort of humming space, or like something. I think, you know, you all know that because just these full moon meditations, sometimes I feel it's really, really coming through. And so it brings at some point a certain kind of frustration, actually. Like, I have the fragrance in my nose, I have the taste on my tongue, but why doesn't it stay? Why doesn't it, sometimes the light switch is switched on, and sometimes the switch is switched off. And so what I wanted to talk a little bit about when I say all these years in India, I don't mean India as a geographical place or as a certain country with a history or something. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about that kind of spark or that kind of divine, this essence. And in places where people have gone over centuries, it so happened that so many seekers of truth end up in India. Why? Because it is, not sure what to say, a country where there was a lot of space for there was a time at least where the main focus was on finding the truth within. Everything else, how much the stock market is and all of that, it's not so important. Of course, now the India on the map is also very westernized. It's kind of, but there still is a certain taste. At least I can sometimes find places where a lot of meditation has happened. I can feel that when I go into this room here, because a lot of meditation has happened in this room, and I always feel, you can feel somehow the difference, that something is an invitation, I would say, like. And so when I'm standing here and tell you about all my years in India, it is not about what has happened there and then we did this and that was so great, but often I thought to myself, well, what is it actually now? What are all these years in India or with my master, what does that mean now? Is it just something in the past that kind of doesn't feel right? Or is it something, how does that express itself in the present, now? And there is one thing that very often comes up for me in any kind of situation. If you just put your hands on your heart, yeah, just put your hands on your heart and close your eyes. And maybe you can even feel your heart moving underneath your hands, or your breath moving in and out. And for a while, just be with your hands on your heart. And imagine that you would have no head. You have no head. And then take it a little deeper. Feel your hands on your heart, as if you are cradling or holding your own heart like a baby. And you have no head. And keep cradling that baby, that heart in your hands, holding your own heart. Knowing that this is always present, always there for you. There might be some sounds. There might be a very slight movement underneath your cradling hands. And take it even a little bit deeper. You have no head. There's no head. And then when you are ready, turn your body so that you are turning towards someone if possible. And slowly open your eyes without losing that kind of space. And express what appears in this moment, in that space, from your heart. And you can say it loud so the other person can hear it. It doesn't have to make sense to the other person. It doesn't have to, just...
I'm not afraid of the headless horseman. I love the headless.
And remember that you don't have a head. Only you have no head.
Talking about that.
Just a heart in your cradling hands. Does it say anything? Maybe not. Maybe it does. then slowly you can open your eyes. And if there's anyone who would say how that felt. Warm.
Loving. Free.
Peaceful. I loved how quiet it was. There was no judgment. There was not even a thought. Where the mind is always that battle with thoughts coming in, no matter how or what the situation. I mean, even if we call it good, it's still a judgment. There was nothing. It was just blank and fluffy.
I like how you carry the subcontinent of India.
Anybody else who feels so?
I realized how much of me is in my head.
Amen, exactly.
So when I tried to visualize that, it was like, okay, what's left?
That's
So
one
that was
thing
work.
that can be done at any time. I do that very often. In situation, like for example, yesterday there was a situation where I felt super embarrassed. There was a woman with a small child coming to my puppet show, and I thought, okay, I have to make some sort of small talk, like I have to say something. And I said to her, is this your grandchild? And then I looked at the woman, she was a really young woman. And I felt so embarrassed. I felt so stupid. And then I thought, okay, I have no head. I'm standing here and I have no head. How would this be, that situation, if I would have no head?
Amusing.
Amusing. It wasn't such a big deal. I just didn't really look. I was so busy with other things. I didn't really look at her face, her skin. I just thought everybody's the same age like me. So
Exactly.
And so that to go through the day, and very often I do this, like, if I would have no head, or if I have something going on with someone, but how would I be if I have no head?
I love that. I love that.
So that is one thing, but more than that is just to stop. And there's always like a space that where everything is contained in, or it's there. And then I get very busy with other things, like who was that one of the Beatles who said, life is what happens while we are busy doing other things? I think that is so. Yeah. The other thing that I feel, so that for me is a contemporary and always, always, always contemporary thing that I have carried from. I could go on talking about the old memories and how great everything was and what now and all this, but it doesn't feel contemporary. What is it now? What is it now? Is it all really just past? Then I might as well just then I might as well just die because I'm just living in the past. But what is this for me now? What have all these experiences? What is it today? And so that one, the stop, and just to, for myself, I really feel that it is very important for me to pay attention. We all know this, but how much attention do we pay to that? I always get busy with other things. And then I remember to stop. And for myself, I really feel it's very important to spend a lot of time in that, particularly because, you know, I'm older, I don't have that much time left. It's not eternally open. There's an expiry date. And yeah, and the other thing that I feel that I carried over is, of course, the meditation techniques. To me, they are timeless. They fit in any kind of century. They are, to me, they are very, very valuable. All of these meditation techniques, which in itself are not meditation, they are just, the Osho meditations are ways what can help us to fall into a meditative space. And for everyone, at any given moment, it could be something else. Sometimes it might be dancing, it might be singing, it might be running, it might be doing nothing, it might be praying, it might be something that puts you into that kind of, into that space, that kind of moving inwards. For everyone, something else works, and I noticed for me, it often is not the same thing. Sometimes singing is something that really opens my heart, but it doesn't always. Tomorrow might not work what worked so well today, so I always have to be alert. What is it today that makes the light switch go on? And so I have brought you, of one of these meditations, I have brought you a small taster, because they are all an hour long and we can't do that here right now. But I brought you a taster of one of the meditations that I really like a lot. But before we go into that, I wanted to ask you if there's any questions or anything that you would like to say or ask.
Is this technique that you just took us through, is that something that you learned from Osho, or is that something you just kind of evolved in you? The holding of the heart? How did that come to be for you?
There is something called the stop exercises that are kind of a bit similar, but this is just something that kind of came. There's also a miniature exercise that is called walk around. Walk around as if you have no head. Just try it. Walk through town or wherever you have to go, and just pretend that you have no head. Today, for a certain time, maybe 10 minutes or whatever, I have no head. But this, what we just did, I had a lot of anxiety, particularly in the nights. I have no idea for what reason, because my life is not that dramatic or something. But I have no idea. It would just come, and I would lay there for hours and just holding my heart as if it's like as if I'm holding a little baby, and sometimes I could feel it beating into my own hands, and somehow it did something to me. I was just holding it like, it's okay, it's okay. And so out of that, or sometimes I sit on my workbench and I can worry myself to death or until the cows come home. I can worry like crazy about anything. And then I just sit there and I thought, stop. And there is some sort of presence. I don't know how to say that really, because no word really. And I just spent time with that lover. Feels like a lover to me. And so that's how this kind of came in. It's home cooked.
Can you share a little bit about Osho? I've heard of, he was a man, right?
Yeah.
I've heard of him, but don't know much about him.
So I met Osho in 1979 in India, and he was an Indian mystic. He was a man of incredible controversies, and there was an enormous amount of stuff in the newspapers and happening all over around him. He kind of attracted, a lot of, it was the 70s and the 80s, it was wild. It was a sexual revolution all over the land, all over the world, kind of. It was, and he was very, if I can say that, like plutonic. He was such a plutonic person, very controversial. And to me, all of that was on the outside. There was a certain, or there is, a certain kind of, the most important thing for me, that it was an incredible love affair. And when I say love affair, it is not a romantic thing, but I had never experienced a love that something in me so responded. And with such a response, there can be a learning, because my everything, not just my body, my whole, everything was responding. There was a yes. And so, and then, there was a million things, and the wild, wild country. It was hard for me to watch that, because I experienced everything so incredibly different. But on the outside, I can't even say that there was anything that was a lie in there. I don't know if ever any one of you has seen Wild, Wild Country. But for example, there was, like in the newspapers and things, there was things of, the sex guru. And so there was a lot of body contact. You could, there was a lot of, in many countries, like in the third world countries, often there anyway is a bit more body contact. So in the commune where I lived, there was a lot of, it was totally fine to hug anyone, to sit on anyone's lap or something. It was not thought to be anything sexual. It was just body contact. And for example, there was a lot of hugging, and really, really, sometimes really long hugging. So I never forget that example when there was in the newspaper, there was two people standing on a bridge hugging each other. And that 30 minutes later, the journalist came back and they were still hugging each other. And so they said that there was a third person hugging. And they said it was group sex. But it was so that's how, a lot of, I did not experience the commune, like for example, how it is depicted in Wild, Wild Country. That was not the place that I experienced. But if I look at the facts on the outside, I also can't say that it was lies. There was weird things going, like there was some weird things going on, and I don't know what kind of, but from where I was and the life that I was living there, it was not like that. Does that make any, does
Yes.
that answer any
Thank
of your
you.
questions?
Yes, thank you.
Where were you in your life when you came to meet them? And
I was 19 years old, and I knew it was very confusing for me that from a very early age, I knew that my path would not be to create a family, and I knew that it screeched for me, that I thought this isn't my path, but if this is not my path, then what is my path? If I'm not supposed to do that, then what am I supposed to do? And so that's when, to the horror of my mother, I went to India to find out more about the inner journey. First I tried in Germany, I went into many different political groups. I was in the communist group and in the Marxist group, and it was all very interesting, but it was super dry and it had nothing to do with my life. Like, there was no answers. I loved going to church. I grew up going to church. I totally loved it. And because when I was sitting there and I had this this kind of, this ripped up little fabric that little kids have, and I was sitting there and I just felt this, and I knew that there's more to it, but why is no one talking about it? How can I get there? So I went to India to search. And I was kind of very desperate, because if I'm not made to create a family and to do, make the best out of my life, then if it's not that, then what is it? I felt like such an outsider. What am I supposed to do? Like, and it became much clearer for me later that I'm a seeker for truth. And any situation that supports that feels right to me. And if there's something that doesn't really support that, it doesn't really harm, it doesn't feel good. Anything else? So I am going to introduce this meditation. It is an old, I think we've done that before. It's an old Tibetan technique. And how much time can I use for that?
I think we just want to be done in like 25 minutes, so.
Okay. So this meditation is usually an hour long, and it is not recommended to shorten it. But as a taster, because to give everyone a taste, this is the only way we can do that right now. And where did I put my glasses here? In order to be the most precise that I can, I will read it to you. I could have also told it to you, but I wanted to be very precise about this meditation and how to do that. It's called Nada Brahma, and Nada Brahma is an old Tibetan technique which was originally done in the early hours of the morning. It can be done at any time of the day, alone or with others. But have at least 15 minutes afterwards to calm, to be quiet. There are 3 stages. The first stage, which is usually 30 minutes, and I'm going to shorten that here. You sit in a relaxed position with your eyes closed and lips together. You put your lips just softly together and start humming. Loud enough so that you can be heard by others, and loud enough so that you can feel the vibration that the humming creates throughout your body. It is like as if you visualize a hollow tube, an empty vessel filled only with the vibration of the humming. And you become the listener. There's no special breathing. You can alter the pitch or move your body very softly and slowly if you feel you need to. Yeah? The second stage is divided in 2 parts. There are 7.5 minutes where you take your hands to your navel, and very slowly, you make an outward movement as if you are giving energy out into the world. And it's super slow. Sometimes it looks like you are not moving at all. It's just when I demonstrate it, I can't do it so slow because then you'll all but be asleep by the time. And after 7.5 minutes, the music changes and you turn your palms facing down, and this time you are taking energy in from the universe. It's a really nice feeling. It's like finally you can take whatever you want, whatever you need, take it in and bring it to your navel. Taking energy in. So the first one, giving out to the universe, and the next one, taking in from the universe, taking in. Yeah? And then the music stops, and you just sit silently until you hear, with your eyes closed, until you hear the bell. So the first one is sit in a comfortable position and allow your eyes to close. And put your lips softly together. And start humming loud enough so that others around you can hear you. the second part, put your hands, your palms facing upward at your navel, and make a very slow outward circle. palms facing downward, giving energy out into the universe, taking energy in from the universe. just wanted to make that very clear. This meditation is usually 1 hour. And I once asked Osho a question, and he said he will answer it after I do 1,000 Nada Brahmas. This meditation is called Nada Brahma. I did that, and it took me about 4.5 years, and then I had forgotten the question. I just wanted to give you the scale of it. It's more like something you have to really go deeply into that. The numbers are like 1,000 of these. It took 4.5 years, and it does something. It really does something. Like I couldn't remember the question, and that's all I. Thank you for coming.
Thank you so much, Salila.
Any questions for Salila?
Yes, Salila.
What did you say?
Question.
Any questions for Salila?
Thank you for inviting us gently into the headless way.
You're very welcome.
It's fun.
We're passing the basket around, and then we'll close out the ceremony. One thing that struck me during that was the comment that I made about Skookum's kind of just having the soundtrack of life with the thing. And this kind of reminded me that this is always within us. And very often I forget that. I don't know about you guys. I find myself just getting wrapped up in the world and wrapped up in the emotion and wrapped up in all of the noise that's going on outside. But then every once in a while, you get this little reminder that we can just slip back into this at any moment. So thank you for that.
How many years did you live at Osho's ashram?
I counted it once altogether. It was something between 34 and 35 years.
Is he the same person that manifested 93 Rolls Royces?
Yes. Yeah.
And why did he do that?
Just because he could.
You see, something like these Rolls Royces, he was a very controversial person, and he would never let you sleep. He was always waking up. He wasn't interested in any of the Rolls Royces or anything, but it brought all the newspapers came and wrote about him. If you have 93 Rolls Royces and you don't even know what you do with it, and you have no interest in them whatsoever, but it gave an enormous, he always said, negative publicity, positive publicity doesn't matter, and it got the whole world becoming aware of, oh my God, what is that? And the ones who were connected with the heart, they could find their way somehow. And somebody gave him a diamond watch, and he said, oh, this is so nice, and just passed it on to the next person. Sometimes it was almost, to the one who gave it, like, well, I just gave him this. But as far as as I experienced my beloved teacher, he wasn't interested in any of this, but the publicity nothing gives you better publicity than if you have 93 Rolls Royces.
That's right.
Do you know any, or did you ever meet Deva Premal?
Yes. Yeah. I met her, she was singing there a lot, and it was actually her partner, Miten, who was, she was just playing keyboards in the beginning. Yeah.
Beautiful singer.
Yeah.
I have a bunch of questions, but when you were in the ashram, did you have to do the vow of silence before you could be initiated into the community?
there was no vows about anything except you cannot hurt yourself or anyone else with whatever you do. But there wasn't any, you have to do this or you have to do that. It was about whatever wakes you up, whatever makes you more aware. It was pretty much anything goes, kind of whatever helps you to wake up, to be more alert, to be more aware. Except that, you know, if you feel aggressive or angry or whatever, there's rooms for that. There's rubber rooms and you can go and beat the room, but you can't beat the person that you would like to beat.
I think Salila will stay here afterwards, and we can kind of just close out and then mix and mingle for as long as we want to. So we just close out by coming together into a circle.